Hans Melotte, CPO of Johnson & Johnson's Pharmaceuticals Group, fought off close competition to win the award for Procurement Leader. The following day, I spoke to him at the Procurement Leaders Forum to get his reaction.
Obviously, ecstatic, very honoured. Hadn't expected it, quite frankly, but feel really good about the recognition. And clearly, the recognition doesn't go to me, but really to the entire community and the entire organisation at the J&J Pharm Group, because they've done a stellar job in helping to transform our business.
So, what do you take back to your team now? What are you going to say to them?
A feel-good message, basically.
Yeah.
Everybody works really hard. Everybody's totally head down in driving the business. As many other people, as many other companies, I'm not sure we take enough time to take a step back and tap ourselves on the shoulder and take a moment to celebrate. And so I'll be using this recognition to do just that.
Absolutely. Is recognition important to the wider business as well, to show what you're doing in procurement?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think procurement has been and still is on a journey. Our industry, the pharmaceutical industry, historically hasn't really needed procurement because of our business model, because of our profit margins, etc. That clearly has changed and still is changing, and so procurement really has had to establish itself, has had to maneuver itself almost into the business with the value offering, with the service offering. I think we've made lots of headway. I think we are on the agenda of many of our business partners, but we're probably on the agenda of many of our business partners in a maybe still a little too traditional fashion. Sure. And so the remainder of our journey, or the next generation of our journey, has to be to go beyond those typical savings contributions and to really help our business effectively manage relationships and help our business effectively enable growth, the much needed growth that is now ahead of us.
Absolutely. And what do you think is going to be the key measure that's going to allow that to happen? What does procurement, or what do you and your team particularly need to be doing to make sure that next stage is achieved?
I think probably the most critical competency in this regard is for procurement to help develop a competency around managing relationships. I think thus far we probably have been good at managing suppliers, but managing suppliers is something totally different from managing relationships. Absolutely. Managing suppliers is all about prescribing suppliers, other companies, to do things the J&J way, if you want. Prescribing other companies to do what we tell them to do, as opposed to actively listen to what they have to offer and to manage a relationship of equals. And at the moment, quite frankly, I don't think we're good at managing relationships. And that's something that I think we will need to develop, a competency we as procurement need to develop first and foremost. But then once we have that, really also have to help our business develop that competency. Because the future of J&J, or the future of many companies in general, and certainly in our pharmaceutical industry, will be much more virtual. Will be one of us partnering, collaborating, allying with many other companies, outsourcing development work, outsourcing services, outsourcing manufacturing. And so that ecosystem can only work if it's really managed well. And that, I think, is our single biggest challenge going forward.
Do you think today's procurement executives, and I imagine you've met quite a lot today at the forum, do you think they're ready for this kind of change? It sounds like a big challenge. There's a lot to take on there.
I'm actually optimistic. I'm optimistic. I was very pleased with many of the messages, most of the messages that I've heard today in the conference, which was a pleasant surprise, admittedly. So I think I'm leaning towards being optimistic. It's one thing, though, to have the right leadership in place, to have the right vision articulated by people in this conference. It's another thing, though, for that message and that realization, that attitude, to be permeated throughout the entire organization. Sure. And that's where I think we, as procurement leaders or as CPOs, probably still have a lot of work to do, because it's not because you've been a successful buyer for the last decade, or it's not because you've been a successful category manager for the last decade that you can be a successful relationship manager in the next decade. So that's where I think we still have some work to do.